This spear gun is a little bit weird. Can you spot it? This is the Oceanammo Hydra. In this example, it's a 100. Let's get into it. So first we'll go over the technical specs of the spear gun, and then I'll give you my first-hand experience bringing this out on a shore dive and my final thoughts.
This Oceanammo Hydra spear gun is built without through holes, allowing the bands to sit completely flat and parallel with the shaft. Because the bands stay straight, stored energy isn't lost in bends. Power from band stretch transfers directly into the shaft. The spear gun is ballast using the DRA recoil system. With this setup, recoil is minimal during the shot. The body is a teak finished with teak oil. It uses a Hermes reverse trigger mechanism. The handle is an AR style handle with a textured grip. Shaft setup depends on length, but for 70 to 100 centimeters, it usually uses a 7mm flopper shaft, and 110 centimeters, it uses a 7.5mm flopper shaft. From 120 to 130, it uses an 8mm flopper shaft or a threaded shaft. Rigging is standard bungee. On the 110 centimeter and longer models, it uses hyper bands in 14 or 16mm. Bands are rigged with 2.5mm Dyneema anchors and 2mm wishbones. And those are the technical specifications of the Oceanammo Hydra.
So what are my thoughts on the Oceanammo Hydra 100? Well, I took this out on a dive, and first let me say this is my first experience with the newer finishes on the Oceanammo. The older finishes, or not older, but the previous finishes, they did have some sort of, I think it was like an epoxy, but a different finish on the wood. Now it seems to be like a more simple oil. I'll include that, or I would have included that in the tech review, hopefully. But back to my experience, I took this out on a shore dive, and yeah, I was going for primarily like calico bass, sheephead, so kind of reef hunting. But I really wanted to get a feel of how this feels in the water and ultimately shoots. And I was very curious about that right there. That I've never seen in a spear gun design. And I thought it was really interesting. The concept makes sense. The concept being that, or my interpretation of the concept from Paul at Oceanammo was that when you have a conventional muzzle, you wouldn't necessarily have these bridles and the Dyneema going through. You would just have a rubber piece going all the way. So it'd be all rubber, and then just the wishbone would be where your bridle and everything sits. But I mean, when you have that, essentially the rubber in the center, I guess what would go through the muzzle, is not doing as much, and you're getting a little bit more of a pull, but it's not. It's more, the theory is that it's not necessary, or it's not exponentially or noticeably beneficial. So let's cut out the middleman, meaning when the rubber needs to go through the muzzle, and let's replace it with these, which is essentially what you're doing is just mirroring almost the rubber setup. So the bridle with the Dyneema, and then the same thing, but obviously instead of connecting it into a wishbone, you just have them into two separate knots like that. And so what you get in theory was like less, I guess, recoil or bounce energy transfer into the muzzle. And my experience is that honestly, I didn't feel a dramatic difference. The biggest difference I felt, and when I say dramatic difference, I mean compared to a conventional setup, which this is more or less, I don't know about competing against, but it's in that, I would say it's in that category of style of spear gun. This, I would say, if you're shopping a conventional, you might shop something like this. But I really didn't notice a big difference. Granted, it would have been a better A/B test if I had essentially the exact same model with 2 conventional bands, but I didn't. But considering I'm just using my experience with conventional rollers, things like that to compare, and I honestly compared to other conventional guns, I didn't feel a huge difference in recoil. But with that being said, the biggest difference I felt is when you unload the rubber when you get close to shore. And typically when I do that, you know, I might do it for my hip, or I might do it for my chest, or my chest area. I'll take it off the wishbone like this, and then when I release, what typically happens is the rubber shoots back and that residual recoil kind of transfers in through the gun. Not a huge deal, but the biggest difference I felt with this one is when I did the exact same motion. So just imagine if this is loaded and I get like here and I let go slowly, it kind of just died at the muzzle in a good way. Like I didn't feel, it just felt like it released and that was it. So that was like the most noticeable change when it came to this type of setup. Outside of that, it tracks well. The rubberized handle is very, very nice. I kind of just like the plain plastic, kind of AR style handle, but the rubberized grip definitely works and it is really comfortable. Just personal preference for me. The trigger mech, the Hermes trigger mechs, I still love them. The release is super smooth. And I do like this little integrated line guide that Oceanammo has started to add to a lot of their spear guns. Personally, I just like it for line management. And other than that, oh, I do have to talk about this. The dynamic recoil absorption system. You see that right there. So essentially, in the tech portion of this video, you explained that, or Paul's theory is the way the ballasting is positioned and how much shot or lead is in these ballasts will essentially, as the recoil travels from here to here, that it would absorb more recoil than you would a traditionally ballasted spear gun. So for me, similar story to the bands, I didn't notice a massive difference. I just didn't. From my experience, that's not to say it didn't work at all, but I didn't notice from handling it any significant difference, but the concept is definitely interesting. But outside of that, it's the classic construction that Oceanammo does. I do like the more kind of matte or oil finish with the newer generation, I'll call it, of Oceanammo spear guns. I did like the finish of the ones before, but over time I've noticed that there starts to show some fatigue on the finish. This one, I feel like you can sand it down and oil it and it'll look good as new pretty quickly. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed this gun. Would I personally get something like this? I think my answer is no. Primarily because I think it adds a lot more complexity to the muzzle for in my opinion, not a tremendous gain. So complexity, obviously you have more bridles, Dyneema being used instead of just going through with one set of rubber. So like this, instead of doing this, you're adding, you get the idea. You're adding that. In addition to that, the pockets or these holes where the Dyneema goes through, there are cups. There are cups inside that essentially they're stoppers. And you're just adding more pieces that could break or fail for whatever reason. I do like the idea, compliment sandwich. I will say I like the idea that you can swap out bands pretty quickly with this system. You don't have to cut anything. You can, in theory, just undo this knot, pull it out, and then put another band on there, maybe different thickness, or if you want to run it a little bit hotter, slightly shorter bands potentially. But yeah, I think this muzzle being the main kind of part of the show, yeah, I just don't think it's worth the trade-offs of getting something like this or a conventional gun. And that's just That's just my opinion on this. Definitely an interesting concept. It still shoots great, shoots very straight. I ended up just shooting an opalite with it because I thought it'd be good to, I want to test this out, but shoots great. If you've shot any of the Oceanammo lineup, I will say the trigger mech, the ballasting is done very, very well. It just feels great in the water. But for this piece, I'm going to say very, very interesting. Not my cup of tea, but that's my review of the Oceanammo Hydra. In this case, it's a 100. If you want to learn more, check out the Oceanammo website. If you want to learn a little bit more about this one or some other spear guns they have. And they are based in Southern California, so if you're local, reach out to Paul and you could probably head into their shop. Yeah, that's it. There it is. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.